Hello students, I am Dr. Saleha Jamal, Faculty Department of Geography, Aligarh Muslim University, Aligarh. So today we are here with a very interesting topic, drought and water scarcity. Because here we are dealing with the course Climate Change Vulnerability and Adaptation, where the drought and water scarcity is one of the very important area mainly affected by the climatic changes. So let us start the today's class. If we define drought, it is a prolonged period of abnormally low rainfall. It means when evaporation exceeds precipitation, which results in the water shortage. That is defined as drought. So, drought is basically what? That is a prolonged period of abnormally low rainfall resulting into water shortages. Drought can be of many types, more specifically if we talk about meteorological, agriculture, hydrological and socio-economic. If we talk about the meteorological, that is, we can say a dry spell of weather or weather having the dry conditions, lack of moisture in the atmosphere, that leads to meteorological drought. And when we talk about the agricultural drought, it is related to the lack of moisture in the soil. That is known as agricultural drought. Talking about the hydrological drought, that is lack of water in the hydrological system or water system, means lack of water in the streams, rivers, certain wetlands, or even the when the underground groundwater level reduces, that is known as hydrological drought. And when we talk about the socio-economic drought, the drought when it impacts the people of the society, then it is known as socio-economic drought. For example, it may pose a challenge regarding the food security, livelihood of the agriculture sector, etc. That is what? Socio-economic drought. So, particularly, we know that drought is the shortage of water or lack of water, whether we are talking about in atmosphere, soil, or in river systems, wetlands, etc. So, it particularly impacts water supply, and as we know agriculture is directly related to the water supply. So, it will also be impacted as it is a climate sensitive sector. I have told many times it is impacted by the precipitation pattern, temperature rise, etc. So, this sector will be impacted. Not only this, each and every life depends upon water. We know on this planet Earth, water makes the life existence possible. So, whole of the ecosystem will be affected by the shortage of the water, and overall we the human beings, certainly we will be impacted. Our health issues may arise due to the shortage of water. We know that unlike the other natural disasters, like if we talk about the hurricane, or if we talk about the certain types of floods, these droughts develop slowly, but its impact can be extended for a longer period. So, if we proceed for and if we work for early detection and monitoring of water shortages, that is very much critical in managing the drought risk. You can just hear what we see here what we talked about. The drought impacts, it directly impacts the agriculture sector, and it may lead to crop failures, livestock stresses, even threatening the food security of a region or of even a nation. Many times it leads to famines also. It also impacts the water supply challenges because decreased water levels, whether it is the groundwater levels or decreased in water level in the reservoirs, due to which certain competition for water affects the communities. Many times the conflicts between the regions and the nations are due to the water scarcity. It also disrupts the ecosystem, due to which habitat loss is very much visible. As we know, availability of water directly impacts the aquatic ecosystem. So, any sort of shortage that will also make the aquatic ecosystem more vulnerable. Even the prolonged drought condition, dry spell, it also increases the risk of the wildfire. So, wildfire, due to the wildfire, we know habitat loss takes place, biodiversity loss takes place. So, overall, it disrupts the ecosystem, and it also impacts the human health. Certain waterborne diseases, like we can say, uh, certain waterborne diseases like dysentery and all, nutritional deficiency also takes place due to the droughts. Due to the climate change, what we have seen day by day, the frequency of drought is increasing. It means if there is more drought, then there will be more damage. Climate change is increasing the frequency of drought overall worldwide, mainly in the drier regions according to the IPCC, like Africa, Middle East and Western US, which are experiencing the prolonged dry conditions. Not only this, certain human activities are fueling this drought condition, and they are inviting the drought condition in particular regions. If we can count, for example, the deforestation, overgrazing, or we can say the reduction in the wetland area, disappearance of the wetland, reduction in the green cover. These are some of the human activities which is fueling the drought condition. Even certain climate models can predict an increase in both, that is in the frequency and severity of drought events due to the climate change. Thus, this growing trend is posing a serious risk to the global food security. The climate change is very much related to the drought condition. We know global temperature is rising. So, role of rising temperature in inviting the droughts is becoming day by day very important, because the rising global temperature increases evaporation, drying out soil and reducing the moisture level. We know that warm air holds more water, leading to longer dry spells and more extreme droughts. Regions with already high temperature are more vulnerable to the intensified drought condition, which can lead to prolonged heat waves, which will contribute again more depletion of surface and groundwater resources. So, these conditions will impact agriculture, human health, ecosystem, etc. Not only this, due to the drought, soil moisture depletion also takes place. We have already talked about different types of droughts. If you remember, students, like hydrological drought, socioeconomic drought, agricultural drought, meteorological drought, and in which agricultural drought we have talked about lack of moisture from the soil. So, actually drought also leads to the depletion of soil moisture. Drying of soils takes place, which will certainly impact agriculture, because prolonged drought depletes soil moisture, which is very much important for the crop growth, due to which the crop productivity decreases, and if the crop productivity is decreased, it will pose certain food insecurity and increases the vulnerability of the crops to pests and diseases. The drought condition also impacts the water bodies. Drought, we know that it lowers the water levels in the lakes, rivers, reservoirs, diminishing the water availability. Not only this, the overuse and over extraction of water resource can even lead to the drought condition, which can cause the long-term damage to the aquatic ecosystem. This prolonged drought condition that directly impacts the groundwater recharge rates, affecting different aquifers of different places. Even now, what we are seeing, that water bodies are becoming increasingly polluted, as lowering the concentrate contaminants through the drought condition, and also the shrinking of the water bodies, which disrupts the entire aquatic ecosystem and the local economies of the reliant people on that ecosystem. So overall, drought can impact the water bodies in different way by reducing the availability of the water in the different reservoirs like rivers, lakes, etc. Even by the long-term damage of the aquatic ecosystem can be seen by the overuse or over extraction of the water resources, and this prolonged drought can even impact the groundwater recharge rates, means it is impacting the water bodies in different ways. How this drought is also impacting the glacial retreat and the snowpack reduction. Certainly we know temperature is rising, global warming is taking place. So diminishing of snowpack, retreating glaciers reduce the seasonal water supplies in various regions, because if temperature is rising, the rate of snow melt will also become different, and many times the water needed for a particular season in a particular region, mainly the mountainous area, which depends upon the snow melt for their fresh water, are more vulnerable to this snow melt and particularly the glacier retreats, whose rates are increasing day by day. Not only this, earlier snow melt impacts also the irrigation and drinking water supplies of different regions. So melting glaciers initially increases runoff, but ultimately we will see it will result in long-term water shortages, and nowadays it is threatening millions of living downstreams from the mountain ranges. For example, you can take example of Himalayas, Andes, etc. Prolonged droughts also impacts the evaporation rate. Due to the drought condition, evaporation rate increases. If you see, the higher temperature due to the drought condition, that increases the evaporation rate from the water bodies, soils and the vegetation. All the evaporation and evapotranspiration rate will increase. Not only this, increased evaporation rate also exacerbates the drought condition by removing the moisture faster than it can be replenished, means evaporation rate exceeds the precipitation rate, and prolonged evaporation rate depletes reservoirs, water storage system, again intensifying the water shortages. So it intensifies the water shortages, mainly the loss of moisture from the soil, that is very much prevalent during the drought condition, for which the plants mainly become more vulnerable, worsening the agricultural drought. So prolonged drought leads to worsening of the agricultural drought. Not only this, the evaporation also contributes to rising water demand for agriculture and industry. So on what we have seen, the drought condition leads to increase in the evaporation rate on one hand, that impacts various aspects differently, whether we are talking about the evaporation from the water bodies, soil, vegetation, removing moisture faster than the replenishment rate. So there is also the intensification of water shortages. Mainly it worsens the agricultural drought and also increasing the demand of water for the agriculture and the industrial sector. Means these all things are directly or indirectly, they are interlinked in a system. If one thing is affected, it will impact the other systems also. So impact on agriculture, it is directly impacted agriculture because it is a climate sensitive sector. It will be impacted if certain changes in precipitation pattern takes place, or either rise or fall in temperature takes place. through which we can say not only the agriculture sector is impacted, but overall the people who are dependent on this sector, those are also impacted. So drought, we know that will reduce the crop yields, mainly it will pose challenge to food security, overall global food security here we are talking about. Crops are becoming day by day due to the drought condition, prolonged drought condition, more vulnerable to the disease and pest. Even the livestock are suffering from the reduced forage due to the a shortage of water availability, and the farmers who are dependent on these crops and the livestock, they are facing increased cost of irrigation rate, and often leading to the economical losses. So in some regions we can say the drought can lead to total agricultural collapse, resulting in famine and migration also. How drought is impacting the wildfires? Wildfires, prolonged drought creates ideal condition, the dry condition for the wildfires. As we know, the dry vegetation becomes highly inflammable. So, the regions experiencing severe drought conditions, there we can say more frequent fires. Just like example, you can see Australia, and we know these wildfire, what they destroy the ecosystem, habitat loss takes place, biodiversity loss takes place, and it also releases large amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, thus threatening the overall communities. This fire damage to forest reduces the natural ability of the ecosystem to recover from the drought. That's why wildfire risk is increasing on one hand. On the other hand, the need for the advanced firefighting resources and emergency response system is increasing. That is to be given attention. So what are the social and economic impacts of the drought? If we talk about, drought leads to economic losses in agriculture, industry, and all the water dependent sectors. It also increases the challenge of food insecurity, higher water prices in many of the urban areas we are facing also, and also the increased migration due to the drought condition. The drought induced water shortages can lead to conflicts among the different regions, among the different states also. You can have the example like if we see the Kaveri dispute, and even between the nations also we can see there are conflicts for the water resources. For poorer populations are mostly affected by the economic and the health impacts of the drought. So governments and organizations must invest in drought resilience and relief efforts. It also impacts overall ecosystem. It reduces the biodiversity by affecting the animal and the plant species, as the aquatic ecosystem is directly dependent on water. So they are becoming more vulnerable as the water level is declining. If we see, the wildlife migration pattern is changing, these wildlife are migrating wherever they get this particular resource available. So through these we can see overall collapse of ecosystem is taking place. Not only it is impacting the water filtration, but also the carbon sequestration also is being impacted. Restoring ecosystem after this prolonged drought is now very much challenging and even costly also. So what are the mitigation practices? How to fight with this prolonged drought? Some of the solution and strategies are needed. For example, if we talk about the implementing certain water efficient technologies and irrigation practices to reduce water consumption. When we talk about water efficient practices for irrigation purposes, for example, we can have drip irrigation, we can have sprinkler irrigation, which reduces water consumption in the agriculture sector. Not only this, investment in developing the drought resistant crops is very much crucial and need of the hour, because we know that now frequency of drought due to the climatic changes is increasing. Protecting and restoring systems like wetlands can help to maintain the water supplies during the droughts. But what we are seeing, lots of wetlands have already been disappeared, which are present, they are shrinking in size. So if we are taking step to protect and restore this ecosystem like wetlands, that can maintain the water supplies for the future when certainly in the drought condition. Government needs to strengthen early warning system, so certain drought preparedness plans can be formulated. International cooperations are also required for monitoring the transboundary water resources in more efficient way. So if we talk about the sustainable components of a sustainable agriculture, we have already said that drip irrigation, and even we can say the sprinkler irrigation can play a very important role in reducing the water consumption. Crop rotation and diversification, that will improve the soil health. Overall, water management through the rainwater harvesting, desalination and wastewater recycling can play a very important role in conserving water which can be used during the drought conditions. Awareness campaign can play a very important role. We know for every plans, for every strategies to be implemented successfully, people's participation is very much necessary. So awareness campaign, community based water management, that can play a very important role. So as this topic is in two parts, drought and water scarcity, already it is very much related because drought leads to water scarcity. Here we are going to discuss about this water scarcity because now it is a global challenge. We have also seen the 0 day for water. So it is a global challenge which is to be paid attention for developing certain policies, plans, for adapting the communities in certain water scarcity condition. So this topic is very much important. Water scarcity occurs mainly when the demand for fresh water exceeds the available supply. How much water is available, but if the demand is higher, then we can say water scarcity prevails. And it mainly results maybe due to the natural cause, just like the drought condition, and it may also be fueled by the human activities, just like the over extraction, overuse of this resource or pollution of this resource. So water scarcity can be classified into physical scarcity and even the economic scarcity, that is when the economy is mainly affected. And if we see to the data, more than 2 billion people are currently experiencing high water stress. See, just here see students, I am talking about the high water stress. There are people who are also more people who are under the water stress, but if we are talking about the high stress, more than 2 billion people are experiencing high water stress, where the water demand is exceeding the water resource available. Actually, the water scarcity impacts all the aspects of life, whether if we talk about the health, we talk about the food production, we talk about the economic stability, etc. So now what are the causes of the water scarcity? Population growth. As population will grow, demand of water will increase. Unsustainable water management practices, over extraction or pollution or inefficient irrigation, that leads to the water scarcity. Not only this, the climate change, the altered precipitation pattern, drought condition, that leads to the water scarcity. In many places, urbanization and industrialization, which intensifies the water demand and even leads to the pollution of the fresh resources, that also leads to water scarcity. And transboundary water conflicts also leads to the water scarcity. So major factors which causes the water scarcity are population growth, unsustainable practices, climate change, urbanization and transboundary conflicts. So we have seen types of water scarcity: physical scarcity, economic scarcity, and seasonal scarcity. If we talk about the physical scarcity, it is due to the geographical limitation, maybe in arid and semi-arid areas, or over extraction of this water resource. If the water resource is available but the demand is high, that can lead to the physical scarcity. If the fresh water resources are polluted, that can also lead to physical scarcity. Not only this, if we are investing short amount for the water management, or if the inefficient management practices are there, then only economic scarcity we can see, or even drought, flooding, agricultural cycles can also lead to the seasonal scarcity. So overall, when natural water resources are inefficient according to the demand, that is known as physical scarcity or water scarcity, already we have seen, and mainly it is common in arid and semi-arid region, and also it occurs due to the overuse or over extraction of the river water, lakes or aquifers. And most of the region which are affected, we are talking about the arid and semi-arid region. So here you can give example of Middle East, parts of Africa and Southern Asia. Similarly, climate change and water scarcity is very much related. Climate change is impacting the water resources directly by altering the precipitation pattern. So climate change is impacting water resources by the change of the precipitation pattern and increase of evaporation, because temperature is rising. So evaporation will increase, and this evaporation is increasing which is exceeding the precipitation. That's why the water shortage can be observed. Drier regions are becoming more red, more arid, but in some of the region we can see that the extreme rainfall and flooding is also observed, means erratic pattern you can see in different regions. So increased evaporation rate depletes the surface water, while higher temperature exacerbates the water demand. Not only this, the climate change also leads to melting of glaciers, snowpack reduction, which limits the availability of seasonal water supplies in many of the region. Even we see the water demand in the agriculture and industry is increasing day by day. Although the agriculture consumes 70% of the global fresh water, if we say, and industry is consuming 20% of the fresh water, and both this sector, agriculture and industry, these are also contributing water pollution, further reducing the availability of the clean water. So these are the factors which is affecting the availability of the water and exacerbating the water shortages. So sustainable practices, particularly in the irrigation, crop selection and industrial water use, are very much important in order to reduce the demand and prevent the further scarcity. Not only this, urbanization also leads to the water scarcity, because water demand for the domestic purpose, industrial purpose, municipal purpose is rising day by day due to the rapid urbanization, due to the rapid increase of the population in the urban areas. The expansion of cities also is straining the existing water infrastructure. Urban areas is also contributing to the water population, which exacerbates the water scarcity, especially in the regions which are already facing the water stress. So there is need for smart urban planning, water recycling and efficient infrastructure in order to address the water scarcity in the cities. Water scarcity is also leading to groundwater depletion. If we see, groundwater provides nearly 50% of the world's drinking water. So over extraction of the groundwater due to the increased demand of the population, over extraction from the aquifers, that will also lead to the long-term shortage. You must have heard that. Firstly, if I talk about my city Aligarh, firstly we can take out water just from 100 feet. Later on it was increased. This is the what I am talking about, just 2 decades before we can have water just from the 100 feet below, but Now we have to, mainly in the summer season, water is easily available from 200 or even more than 200 feet below. It means that groundwater level is decreasing. Water scarcity is also due to the water quality degradation, because lots of pollution we can see from the industrial sector, from the urban areas, and even water are being polluted through the agricultural sector, through the runoff, the pesticide, insecticides and fertilizer also that get mixed in the reservoirs, water bodies, etc. So this poor water quality limits the usability of the fresh drinking water. Also, not only for the drinking, but even it also limits the water availability for the agriculture purposes. Degraded water quality also that leads or contributes to the health risk. So it is said now that water treatment technologies and pollution control measures are becoming very much important in order to maintain the clean water supplies. So these are the few of the health impacts of water scarcity. It can lead to poor health like disease such as cholera, dysentery, typhoid, etc. Even the lack of water can lead to lack of hygiene. As we know, water and sanitation, it is said that water and sanitation are the cousin sister. If there is shortage in the water, then there will be the shortage in the sanitation condition also. So certainly it will impact the health, mainly the impact of the women's and the children's, because they carry more burden of water collection. So particularly the women and children are the more vulnerable sections of the society. So solution to water scarcity. How to address this water scarcity problem? Here we have to improve water efficiency, particularly for the agriculture, industrial and urban areas. How we can do? For the agriculture sector, we can reduce water consumption through increasing the water efficiency techniques for the particularly irrigation purpose like drip irrigation and sprinkler irrigation. From the industries, water treatment plant should be initiated, and mainly for the urban areas, there should be some plans and policies, and also there should be the rationing of water for the population. The water recycling, desalination and rainwater harvesting are few of the steps in order to increase the fresh water supply. So we can also work for water recycling, desalination and rainwater harvesting. Not only this, but investment through the governments in water infrastructure and technology can also play a very important role in improving water distribution. And overall, protecting ecosystem like wetlands and the forest, that can also help to maintain the natural water cycles and recharge sources. Overall, global cooperation is needed, policy reforms are needed, education, awareness and are very much essential to address the long-term challenges of the water scarcity. So, if you will save water, water will save you. That's all for today's lecture. Have a nice day, students.